The worst kind of pain is the kind designed to make you forget you were ever human. These punishments weren't about justice. They were about erasing people from memory, from history, from themselves. No blood, no screams, just silence. Silence that rewrites the soul. If you've ever wondered how cruelty can wear a human face, this isn't just history. It's what happens when power forgets humanity. 10. Imagine being silenced, not by a command, but by an instrument. Not hurt to die, but hurt just enough to remember what silence feels like when it's forced upon you. Some punishments weren't meant to kill. They were meant to erase parts of a person, voice, identity, hope. In ancient times, rulers feared rebellion more than death, so they designed suffering that didn't spill blood, but rewrote the soul. 9. In the cold stone chambers of forgotten empires, people were punished with isolation that stretched for years. No light, no voices, no time, just a mind locked with itself. Isolation wasn't just a tactic, it was a weapon, because the human brain isn't built for that kind of quiet. It begins to make noise of its own. Memories twist, reality bends, and eventually, something breaks. 8. They called it justice, but it looked a lot like vengeance. Punishments that turned crowds into spectators. Humiliation used as a public theater. The goal wasn't just to punish, it was to mark the person forever. Even if they walked away, they never truly returned. Their image was shattered, their dignity erased, and every whisper afterward was a reminder of who they had been made into. 7. Some were sentenced not to pain, but to repetition. The same act, the same struggle, day after day. Tasks designed not to succeed, but to wear the soul down. A cruel genius, because the body might endure, but the mind slowly learns futility. When effort becomes meaningless, identity begins to dissolve. You stop being someone. You become something going through motions, an empty rhythm with no melody. 6. Punishments were sometimes masked as mercy, a life spared, but only to live under constant scrutiny, exile, or shame. These people breathed, they walked, but they were no longer seen as human. Stripped of names, roles, rights, they became living symbols of what not to be. And in that shadow, they disappeared, not from the world, but from themselves. 5. To be forgotten was one thing, but to be erased, that was worse. Entire lives, identities, and histories deleted from records. People sentenced to vanish, no legacy, no story, as if they'd never existed. In a world where even the smallest are remembered with gravestones, these punishments aimed deeper, at the very idea of existence. The silence left behind was louder than any scream. 4. There were punishments that didn't happen all at once, but slowly, like poison dripping into a soul over years. Forced roles, controlled thoughts, limited words. Cultures perfected this, bending the human spirit into obedience so subtle it looked like acceptance. This wasn't correction, it was transformation, turning people into shadows of what they once were. 3. Some were punished with decisions, terrible ones, to choose between freedom and loyalty, between one loved one or another. These weren't physical torments, they were moral knives. Impossible choices with no right answer, only guilt that lingered for the rest of a life. Pain may fade, but regret lingers in every breath. 2. Psychological torment was often more potent than any blade. Being made to confess to things you never did, to believe you deserved the punishment, to question your memories, your self-worth, your reality. It wasn't about hurting the body. It was about rewriting the mind until it couldn't recognize itself. 1. But the worst punishment was hope. Given and then taken. Repeatedly. The illusion of escape. The promise of mercy. Only to be snatched away again and again. Hope is a fragile thing. It gives strength, but when manipulated, it breaks a person in ways no chains ever could. It turns light into a weapon, and the soul into its battlefield. The scariest punishments weren't the loudest. They were the ones that crept in slowly, until the person disappeared, not from the world, but from themselves. If this left you feeling haunted, or understood in a way you didn't expect, send it to someone who carries quiet pain too. And if you want more truths the world tries to forget, subscribe. I'll be here, whispering what no one else will say out loud. Some scars don't show. Some stories never made the history books, but they still shape the world we live in.